I also am a fisherman, and I was in the Boundary Waters canoe area, which is, you can't get any more in the middle of nowhere in the lower 48 than the Boundary Waters. We canoed in. You can't use a gasoline-powered engine in this place. And we canoed in for days, smallmouth bass fishing. And we toted out all this trash that we, mostly whiskey bottles, that we took out, we packed out, made every effort to pack this stuff out of this special place. And one of the campsites, there's a blue plastic bag in the middle of nowhere. And for those that don't know what I do, I spent my entire career in conservation, fish and wildlife resources. And I said at that moment, this just can't be. That a bag that started its life thousands of miles away from this place has wound up here. And I come back and think, to Mr. Falstad's point, we have to do something differently. It is the last thing I want to do is to burden Mamma Mia's or any restaurant in town. But we have to do something. And I think it starts here. I also think that a state ban is coming, I think, for sure. It might not be this legislative session, and maybe this gives a chance for Centreville to join Easton and Chestertown and so many other places, Salisbury, that have banned plastic bags, to get a leg up on other parts of the state that are not dealing with that. But I think all of this sort of laboratory of democracy that's happening in towns and counties is going to lead to state action. And I think that's going to happen sooner rather than later. And so, why not get ahead of it here? Why not do something here? And I also want to just say that, when I drive down the road, and I feel like maybe this is a recency bias, but, as a kid, you didn't see, which wasn't that long ago, you didn't see so much trash on the side of the road. And I don't know what's happened, but I reflect on this from time to time, that I now see single-use plastic bags that people are reusing to clean out their car while they're driving down the road and chuck that out the window so it sits on the shoulder, right? I see as much of that as I see anything else on the side of the road. You drive through our farm fields and the wind has blown plastic bags all across hither and yon, across those fields. And I just think, we've got to do a better job. Those bags are winding up in the rivers, not in the Pacific trash patch, but in the Chester River trash patch, in the Corsica River, in the creeks that my kids play in, that my kids fish in. And you don't have to go to the Boundary Waters, certainly, to find these things in the environment. And so I am strongly supportive. I would probably be willing to discuss, we've talked about this some kind of mom and pop. I just think exemption for mom and pop restaurants. I just think I'm now convinced the tougher we make this thing to implement and enforce and understand from the public standpoint, where can I get a bag? Where can I not get a bag? What's the story here? Just assume you can't get a bag anywhere. Just assume that we have to do something differently, and that nothing good ever happened the easy way. And I think, I think through, I will say this, I've said it on the record here, we are obviously residents of the town, my family and I, are frustrated with, and don't have a lot of confidence in the single stream recycling that we have in this town. I have watched, as we all probably have, our single stream recycling go into the back of a trash can. So our family, committed to making better, different choices, sorts that in our basement and takes it to recycling domes, where recycling companies have assured me it gets recycled. And so I think, that's a pain. It's annoying, but we get used to it. You habituate to doing things in a better way. That's why I'm for this. I think, and as I said to the Restaurant Association, Brendan, their representative, I don't think this is going to be quite the burden that we think it's going to be sitting here tonight. I think we'll adjust quickly, and I'm looking forward to helping out as much as we can. And if it's affecting the bottom line, come back, in a dramatic way, a profound way, come back and tell us. Like, I think, just like you're saying you want to be back in touch with us if we exempt, be back in touch with us, and make sure it's working the way we hoped it would.
But I stopped using single daily contacts because the amount of plastic that was amassing in my house before I could get to recycle them was extreme. And I think we have to do more. Like you said, I think there's just no choice. I do want to clarify too that prescription contacts and glasses are exempt. You will be able to give a bag for free to a customer for a prescription product. That's in the bill. And so I think we've done the right things to put the right exemptions in place. I was not in favor of any change for the restaurants until the last meeting, when the point was made that sometimes the bag is requested after the sale has been run. And like, is the waitress supposed to stand there and say, give me a dime? I mean, that seems silly. So we've exempted restaurants in the latest version from the fee, but not allowed the continued use of plastic bags. I think a lot relies on the consumer and the education that plastic-free QAC has tried to provide this community for years, and probably after pushing this legislation has some level of responsibility to continue to educate in a broader way. If you're ordering takeout from a restaurant and you're getting one item, decline a bag in general. I mean, just decline a bag. I don't think anyone who's shopping at a local business wants to burden that business. They want to support it. And so if we're hearing that if you're ordering, one $8 lunch from Mamma Mia's, that a bag is going to be a problem, then decline that bag. And I think so consumers have an opportunity to play a really significant role, and advocates have an opportunity to provide a ton of education to people who might need it. I have endeavored to use 0 plastic bags since we introduced this. I am not that great at remembering my bags. You may have seen me walking out of Acme like with a stack of groceries to my car, but I think there are things that people can do to change their behavior. And I take my kid fishing, much to my dismay, but he likes to go fishing. And there is a ton of trash in the water here. And I grew up in Queenstown, very close to Y Island, where I rode my bike often, and where you would find trash along everywhere. And that's not trash from people that live there, that's from people who are visiting here. And I think with our trail system, with our watershed, with everything that we have to offer as a town that is nature driven, the reason that I moved back here, the reason that I am raising my family here, I'm just not moved really by the cost of a bag when I compare that to the cost of killing the earth. And so I'm very much in favor of this bill and would not like to see any additional changes to what we've presented today.
We're elected to make tough decisions, and I do want to note in a positive way that so many of you coming out the last few sessions, at last count, I think it was like 200 plus that I saw, maybe more than that, emails forwarded to us. So we do take the time to read that feedback. And by my count, I want to say it's 95% plus of those of you that have taken the time to show up and speak or taken the time to write are in favor of this ordinance, has been presented tonight and as amended. And what I would just add is, in spite of that, my vote is in support of this overall. We have a history in this town, as some of you know, many of you may know, where we were one of the last communities in this nation to desegregate after Brown versus the Board of Education. That's not a badge of honor for this community, and I think tonight a badge of honor is to be able to say, and I think we all feel this way, that it's inevitable. The nation is moving this way, municipalities, state governments, and so we are a community that likes to control its own destiny, and so I think there's reason tonight to support this. That all being said, as the council member that's responsible for liaison for economic development, I did take the time to have a conference call with the majority of our restaurants, after which I did receive an email from Brendan Mahoney from the Restaurant Association, the Government Affairs manager. Some of you received that correspondence up here, who noted, of course, that Easton, Annapolis, and there are other communities that have exempted their small business-owned restaurants, those potentially with a chain of no more than 2. That is an amendment that I would like to see supported. I know I've reached out to several council members, and I don't feel, unless somebody says differently tonight, that there's support for that.
But in talking with Brendan, we clarified that Anne Arundel County has only exempted them from the fee.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the town of Annapolis.
Got it. And so I'll just close by saying I'm deeply concerned, and I know we all are up here. We care about all of our businesses. We care about our restaurants. I think everybody up here frequents our restaurants, so we don't want to see an unnecessary burden. So I just wanted that noted for the record in our minutes, that I'm going to be voting in favor of this. But I do have the dissenting view that I would rather have seen us have an exemption for the restaurants with takeout and carry out food. I am deeply interested in participating in any discussions between plastic-free QAC or restaurants. I did reach out to Linda Friday from the Chamber of Commerce to see, if the county's going to be moving in this direction, can we just kind of have a community-wide, county-wide effort to potentially ease the burden on our restaurants who are concerned about that very, very slim margin that is different than, say, a McDonald's or Hardee's, you name it. So at any rate, those are just the points I wanted to make tonight. And I just applaud the community coming out and really having your voices be heard. This is so much better than we have our staff here and empty chairs.
You said that we're elected to make tough decisions. This is not a tough decision. This is a fairly easy decision. I have been concerned about the fee, and I made comment of this at our last session that, you know, I had wanted to make a motion to get rid of the fee. But, you know, I understood that the fee was that added incentive to bring your own bag. You know, my initial thought had been in 102-2B to say a retail establishment may charge, collect, and retain at least 10 cents. But I would like to offer an amendment at another place in this bill where we might address the size of the paper bags, that we exempt from collecting the fee bags smaller than a third of a cubic foot.
We don't have trash because Billy gives out plastic bags, or the Bayshore Steam Pot gives out plastic bags, or the creamery. We have plastic bags out there because we don't take care of our trash. We don't properly secure it, we don't properly tie our bags, we don't throw it away. We have people that throw things out the door. So I think you all are gonna vote how you're gonna vote, and I have a fairly good sense of where you're gonna go, that there might be some value added in the restaurant exemption in the near term to see, you know, give them a chance to kind of adapt in a business model, but just something I want to put out there for your consideration.
Clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Beecham,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
President Klein,
Yes.
Vice President Kaiser.
Yes.
Motion
Thank you.
passed.
Can I make one more comment before we move on? Sure. Just highly encourage everybody in the room that this is not a once and done thing. I know it's not as displayed by the nods I'm seeing in the audience, but clearly there's a lot more we can do for our environment and here in Centreville. And if there's ways that we can incentivize our community to take this step further, and then I'll just go back just because I don't think it can be foot stomped enough. Anything we can do to work with our local restaurants to ease the burden, the transition. Sounds like we got several months to make some of those things potentially happen. And that's my commitment up here to do that for those that are in restaurants. Or any